White manager humiliates black elderly man in the store, but panics when he discovers that he's the true owner of the company. Samuel Hightower, a 73-year-old African-American man, walks into a department store in his town and soon finds himself at the center of a public humiliation. Appearing simple, he does not imagine that the arrogant manager, Mark Collins, will judge him solely by his appearance. What Mark does not know is that this ordinary man is, in fact, the owner of the store he mistreats. This story reveals not only the prejudice Samuel has faced throughout his life, but also the strength and wisdom he has gained over the years. In a small town in the United States, the department store where Samuel Hightower finds himself reflects the local economic power. However, behind the modern and shiny walls lie attitudes that perpetuate discrimination. Samuel, a man who grew up fighting against poverty and prejudice, has always believed in respect and the dignity of human beings. He became a successful businessman, yet still prefers to visit his stores discreetly, without fanfare, to understand how his employees treat customers. On this ordinary day, Samuel enters the store looking for a few items, but when he asks for help, he is met with disdain. Mark, the manager, does not hesitate to insinuate that people like Samuel do not belong there. The tense atmosphere in the store intensifies, and the discreet glances from the employees reflect contained indignation. Martha, an employee who knows Samuel's true identity, watches the scene and tries to subtly intervene, advising him to stay calm. Samuel's heart tightens at the prejudice and lack of respect, but he decides it is time to act. With a serene look, he reveals who he really is to everyone in the store. The silence that follows is palpable, and Mark, who once felt superior, is now confronted by his own mistake. The transformation that occurs at that moment is not just Samuel's, but of everyone present, who are forced to reflect on their own attitudes and values. After the incident, Samuel calls a meeting with the entire team, reaffirming the company's commitment to inclusion and respect. Mark's dismissal is just the beginning of a new era for the store, where human values and customer dignity are prioritized. Samuel, with his wisdom and experience, becomes a mentor to his employees, ensuring that the company's philosophy is not just a slogan, but a daily practice. What began as a day of humiliation transforms into a powerful lesson about empathy, respect, and the importance of treating everyone with dignity, regardless of their appearance. The humiliation that Samuel Hightower faced in the department store was not an isolated event in his life. He knew that prejudice existed and that often it was necessary to fight against it. However, this situation hit him with unexpected force. Looking at Mark Collins, the manager who had belittled him, Samuel felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Anger, sadness, and deep disappointment mixed in his heart. He had dedicated his life to overcoming adversity, and now he found himself in a moment of vulnerability. After the incident, Samuel decided he needed time to reflect. He stepped away from the store and walked through the quiet streets of the town where he had spent his childhood. Memories came rushing back like waves, reminding him of the difficulties he faced. Poverty, prejudice, and the constant struggle to be respected were parts of his story. But Samuel also remembered his victories, the people who supported him, and the friendships he formed along the way. He thought of Martha, the employee who had tried to help him, and how she seemed to understand his pain. Martha, a young woman with a generous heart, watched the scene from the corner of the store. She knew Samuel's story and admired his strength. Since she started working at the store, she had noticed the way Mark treated some customers, but she never imagined it would become so evident. Mark's disdain was not just directed at Samuel, but at many who did not fit into his distorted view of success and status. What could have been a simple job for Martha became a mission to help create an environment where everyone was treated with dignity. After the walk, Samuel decided he could not let that episode go unnoticed. He knew he needed to act, not just for himself, but for all those who faced similar situations. The meeting he called would not only be a moment to discuss Mark's dismissal, but an opportunity to change the culture of the store. He wanted his employees to understand the importance of respecting every customer, regardless of their appearance or social status. In the meeting, the atmosphere was tense, the employees were nervous, and the whispered voices reflected a mix of curiosity and concern. Samuel, with his serene presence, began to speak. He shared his life experience, how he had overcome challenges, and how respect and empathy had always guided him. He spoke of his desire to create an environment where everyone felt welcome and valued. The looks from his employees began to change. Many who had previously seen Samuel as just another customer now recognized the depth of his experience. One employee, Tom, raised his hand and confessed that he had felt uncomfortable with the way Mark treated Samuel. He felt guilty for not having acted. Tom's confession opened the space for others to speak as well. More voices rose, sharing their own experiences of injustice and prejudice. Meanwhile, Samuel realized that the transformation he sought would not be easy. He would face resistance, not only from Mark, but from a deep-rooted culture that had always valued appearance over character. Mark's anger, now that he was at home, away from the environment he had dominated, could turn into a quest for revenge. Samuel knew he would have to confront not only the consequences of his decisions, but also the possibility of new challenges. The fight for a fair and welcoming environment would require courage and resilience. By the end of the meeting, Samuel felt a wave of hope. The open and honest dialogue among the employees was a sign that changes could occur. They were ready to face the challenge together. The friendship that began to form among them, especially with Martha and Tom, seemed to be the first step toward a new path. Samuel realized that despite his painful experiences, he was not alone. Together, they could transform the store into a place where every person was valued. The challenges were far from over, and Samuel knew that the struggle for dignity and respect would demand even more of his inner strength. However, he also understood that true change begins with unity and empathy, and so he prepared to face the obstacles that would come, determined not only to reclaim his dignity, but to create a legacy of respect that would endure for generations. Samuel Hightower knew that the road ahead would not be easy. Despite the enthusiasm generated by the meeting, the shadow of Mark Collins still loomed over the store. The dismissed manager was not just an authority figure, he was a symbol of everything Samuel wanted to combat. The tension among the employees grew as the days passed. Some of them, who had previously been neutral, now seemed hesitant to support the new ideas that Samuel and his allies advocated. Martha, who had always been a loyal friend, began to notice the subtle changes in the behavior of some colleagues. The divide between those who supported Samuel's vision and those who still viewed the former manager as a respectable figure became increasingly evident. On one of the days, a group of employees gathered in a corner of the store, whispering about the new inclusion policy. Samuel heard some words spoken in a mocking tone, and his heart sank. He had hoped that empathy and respect would be fertile seeds, but the resistance was palpable. One day, Samuel decided he needed to confront this resistance directly. He organized a new meeting, this time aimed at discussing the challenges they were facing as a team. However, upon entering the room, he noticed that the atmosphere was tense. The looks were critical, and some whispers could be heard. One of the employees, Jake, a man who had always been close to Mark, raised his voice. "Why do we need to change? What Mark did wasn't that wrong. He knew how things worked here," Jake said, his voice laden with indignation. The room fell silent. Samuel felt a wave of discouragement, but he took a deep breath and decided he could not back down now. "Jake, I understand your point of view, but we need to look beyond. What we want to build here is a space where everyone feels respected and valued. It's not about change for the sake of change, but a collective effort to create a better environment," Samuel replied, feeling the weight of his words. The tension persisted, and Samuel realized that the resistance was not limited to words. In the following days, small acts of sabotage began to occur. Products were placed out of order, customers were poorly treated, and rumors about the new inclusion policy were spread by some employees. This situation began to affect Samuel physically. He felt exhausted, his nights were poorly slept, and anxiety ran rampant within him. The fight for change seemed like an increasingly heavy burden. However, amid this turbulence, Martha became a pillar of support for Samuel. She not only defended his ideas, but also tried to unite the colleagues, holding small informal meetings to discuss the importance of respect and empathy. In one of those meetings, she shared her own story of overcoming, how she had faced family difficulties and prejudices in her life. That vulnerability touched the hearts of many. Before we continue with this touching story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories, and let us know in the comments which city you are watching this video from. From there, other employees began to open up as well, sharing their own stories. This brought a new energy to Samuel, who realized that transformation did not come solely from his efforts, but from the collective courage of everyone involved. However, resistance still persisted. Jake, feeling threatened, decided it was time to act. One morning, Samuel arrived at the store and found a poster stuck at the entrance criticizing the new inclusion policy. The poster had been signed by a group that called themselves Defenders of Tradition. Anger and frustration overtook Samuel. He felt that all his effort was being undermined. Fatigue began to turn into despair. He wondered if he would ever be able to make a difference. But it was in that moment of discouragement that something unexpected happened. Tom, who had been one of the first to support Samuel, stood up and decided to confront Jake and his allies. "This isn't about tradition, it's about who we are as people. We all have the right to be treated with dignity," he said, his voice firm and clear. This defense resonated with the other employees, who began to rally around Samuel. With renewed support, Samuel began to realize that, despite the challenges and resistance, change was possible. He would still face many battles, but the lessons he was learning were making him stronger. He understood that the fight for dignity and respect was not just an individual struggle, but a collective journey that required courage, empathy, and unity. And more importantly, he began to see that even in difficulties, there was space for growth and learning. What seemed like a lost battle was now transforming into an opportunity to redefine what it meant to be part of that store. Every small triumph and every moment of support guided him toward a more promising future. Samuel knew that the journey was just beginning, but he was no longer alone. Together, they were ready to face any adversity that arose. Samuel Hightower felt the weight of the world on his shoulders as the days passed. The tension in the store was at a critical point, and the resistance from some employees seemed almost insurmountable. However, all of that would change on a fateful day that would start like any other, but would become a turning point in the fight for the store's transformation. It was a sunny morning, and Samuel arrived early, hopeful that the day would bring new opportunities to engage with the team. He was determined to foster an environment of respect and inclusion, but as he opened the store door, his eyes fixed on a group of employees gathered in a corner, whispering and laughing mockingly. Samuel's heart sank. He already felt the pressure before he even started his workday. As he headed to his office, a thought struck him. What if he was wrong? What if the vision he had for the store was not what everyone wanted? That doubt followed him for hours, but he tried hard not to let it show. Throughout the morning, he observed the dynamics among his colleagues. Some were clearly distancing themselves, while others seemed to be reinforcing the resistance. By early afternoon, the situation took an unexpected turn. A customer entered the store and immediately caught everyone's attention. It was an elderly lady, known for frequenting the store and always treating the employees with kindness. But today, her gaze was distant, and she appeared disoriented. Samuel approached to offer help, but the lady with a trembling voice began to speak about the importance of respect and compassion. "I have been coming here for years, and I have always been treated with dignity. But today, I feel that something is wrong. What happened to the kindness among you?" she said, looking directly at Samuel. In that moment, silence enveloped the store. The employees, who had previously been on opposing sides, were now listening attentively. Those words resonated deeply with Samuel. He realized that what was at stake was not just the inclusion policy, but something much deeper, the essence of what it meant to be human. He remembered the stories that Martha and others had shared, the struggles each had faced in their lives. He understood that the resistance was not just a fight against change, but a fear of losing one's own identity. As Samuel tried to find the right words to respond to the lady, Jake, who had been one of the most critical, began to speak. "Maybe we have lost sight of what really matters. It's not just about rules or policies, but about how we treat each other every day." What had started as a confrontation now seemed to be transforming into a collective reflection. Samuel felt a wave of hope. He saw the faces of his colleagues beginning to soften, the resistance giving way to understanding. The emotional impact of that moment was profound. He realized that in his quest for change, he had focused so much on the policies that he had forgotten the more human aspect of the situation. He remembered his own journey, the times he had felt excluded and undervalued. The elderly lady, sensing the change in the atmosphere, smiled. "Remember, each of you has the power to make a difference. The true strength of a team comes from unity and mutual respect." Her words echoed in the store, and Samuel saw tears in the eyes of some employees. He knew he was facing a crucial moment, a chance to redefine what it meant to be part of that team. At that instant, Samuel decided he could no longer be swayed by the fear of resistance. He needed to be the leader his colleagues needed. With new determination, he turned to everyone and said, "Let's remember why we are here. It's not just about policy or who is right or wrong. It's about creating an environment where everyone can feel safe, respected, and valued. Let's work together to make that happen." Samuel's words brought a new spirit to the team. The tension that had once dominated the store began to dissipate, and conversations started to flow more openly. He felt that he had crossed a turning point, that the resistance would still exist, but now had the chance to transform into constructive dialogue. Samuel's journey was far from over, but at that moment he realized that the most valuable lessons often come from difficulties. He had learned that true change starts with empathy and understanding, and that together they could face any challenge that arose. The future was still uncertain, but now there was hope. Samuel knew that the fight for dignity and respect would be ongoing, but he also knew he was no longer alone. The team was coming together, and together they could create an environment where everyone could thrive. The atmosphere in the store changed dramatically after the moment of transformation. Samuel Hightower felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The resistance that once seemed insurmountable was now beginning to give way to a more open and respectful dialogue. He watched his colleagues gathering in small groups, discussing ideas on how they could improve the work environment. It was a clear sign that the words of the elderly lady had found an echo in their hearts. In the days that followed, Samuel dedicated himself to strengthening this new dynamic. He started holding small meetings where each employee had the opportunity to express their concerns and suggestions. He remembered the importance of listening, not just talking. With each meeting, he noticed how the faces that had once been hardened by resistance were now lighting up with hope. There was a renewed energy in the team, and Samuel felt he was finally building something meaningful. However, not everything was easy. As the team began to create a new space of respect, Samuel realized there were still those who felt uncomfortable with the changes. Jake, who had stepped forward during the conversation with the lady, was trying to be a mediator, but behind his smile, there was an internal struggle. He often found himself in difficult situations, trying to balance supporting Samuel while still dealing with colleagues who opposed the new ideas. Samuel noticed that Jake seemed more tired, and that worried him. Samuel also faced the challenges of being a leader in times of change. He began to have restless nights, thinking about how he could keep the team united. The pressure to ensure that everyone felt included and heard weighed heavily on him. On one of those sleepless nights, he sat at his desk with the soft light of the lamp illuminating his notes. He remembered the elderly lady and how her words had touched him. He needed to find a way to convey that message to everyone, in a way that not only resonated but also created a lasting impact. It was then that Samuel decided to create a mural in the store, a space where everyone could leave messages about what inclusion and respect meant to them. He hoped this would not only encourage communication, but also help strengthen the bonds between employees. When he presented the idea to the team, he was surprised by the warm response. The excitement in the air was palpable, and many offered to help decorate the mural. As they worked together, Samuel saw how collaboration brought a new sense of belonging. He spoke with Martha, an employee who had always been a strong voice for others. She shared her own experiences of exclusion and how the change was making her feel more valued. The connection between team members deepened, and Samuel realized that through these interactions, they were all overcoming the challenges of the past. Still, new obstacles arose. Some employees who were uncomfortable with the changes began to withdraw, opting to work in silence. Samuel was concerned about this. He knew it could be easy to regress into old habits if they weren't careful. During a meeting, he decided to address the issue directly, asking each person how they felt about the changes and what could be done to make everyone feel included. The conversation was difficult. Some people expressed frustration, while others were still skeptical. Samuel listened attentively, feeling the weight of each word. By the end of the meeting, he realized that although there was resistance, there was also a willingness to engage in dialogue. He knew that changes would not happen overnight, but that moment of openness was an important step. Samuel, in his emotional journey, began to understand that leadership was not just about guiding, but about being present and open to others' difficulties. He remembered his own insecurities and how they had shaped his vision. Looking at the mural that was forming, he saw that each message represented a story, a struggle, and a hope. And even though there were obstacles ahead, he was determined to continue on this path of empathy and inclusion. As the weeks passed, the store began to flourish. Resistance still existed, but it was now accompanied by a curiosity and desire to understand. Samuel knew that the work would never end. There was much to be done, but he felt that together they could face any challenge that arose. He was stronger, more connected with his team, and above all, more human. The future was still uncertain, but now there was a new sense of community, and that gave Samuel the courage he needed to move forward. Samuel Hightower looked attentively at the mural he had created in the store. His colleagues' messages were piling up, forming a mosaic of voices and experiences. Each word written there represented a step toward a more welcoming and respectful place. However, he still felt a knot in his stomach. The changes he had promoted were beginning to bear fruit, but the resistance from some colleagues still troubled him. He knew that overcoming obstacles was not a straight path, but one filled with twists and turns. One day, while reviewing some notes, Samuel had a moment of reflection. He realized that throughout his life he had always been someone who sought to please others, putting his own needs aside. This need for acceptance, which had once kept him trapped in a cycle of insecurity, was now transforming into a driving force for change. The idea that he could be a more authentic leader, someone who truly listened to his team's concerns, was a new perspective that motivated him. However, the journey was not without challenges. During a meeting, one of the employees, Marcus, a frequent critic of the new proposals, raised his voice. "These changes aren't working. The store is still the same, just more confusing now." Marcus's words echoed in the room, and Samuel felt the tension rise. He could see the nervous glances of his colleagues, and doubt began to haunt him. There was some truth in Marcus's words, and Samuel felt vulnerable. He took a deep breath, remembering the elderly woman and the impact her words had caused. Instead of shutting down, he decided to use that moment as a learning opportunity. "Marcus," he began, his voice calm, "I appreciate you sharing your feelings. It's important for all of us to speak openly about how we feel. How about you tell us more about what you think could be better?" The shift in his approach surprised everyone. Samuel wasn't trying to defend himself. He was open to dialogue. The act of listening helped dissipate the tension. With the conversation flowing, other employees began to contribute, sharing their own frustrations and suggestions. Samuel realized that this conversation, although difficult, was an essential part of the growth he sought for the team. He learned that vulnerability was not a sign of weakness, but a bridge to deeper understanding. As days went by, Samuel began to trust himself more. He allowed himself to be open about his own insecurities, sharing with the team that he too was learning to lead. This honesty created a space where others felt safe to express their own struggles. From that moment on, he realized that true leadership was not just about guiding, but also about being genuine and human. With the conversations, Samuel saw the team coming together. He began to cultivate unexpected friendships, like the one he developed with Jake. The mutual support between them helped both face their insecurities. Jake, who had always been the strong type, now allowed himself to show vulnerability, and that inspired Samuel to do the same. They became allies, working together to build a more inclusive environment. The mural, now filled with messages of hope and challenges overcome, became a symbol of what they were achieving together. Samuel realized that success was not just measured in sales numbers or goals met, but in how each person felt about their work and the team. He understood that true wealth lay in the relationships they were building, in the trust they were developing with one another. With this new understanding, Samuel began to apply the lessons he had learned. He instituted an open feedback day every month, where everyone could discuss what was working and what wasn't. The conversations became more fluid, and criticism, instead of being seen as attacks, was viewed as opportunities for growth. He felt that slowly, the store was becoming a place where everyone belonged. There were still difficult days, but Samuel now faced adversity with a new perspective. He had learned that each challenge was a chance to strengthen himself, and that the path to personal and collective transformation was a continuous process. With new bonds of friendship and a renewed sense of purpose, Samuel was more confident than ever, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Samuel Hightower was about to face the greatest challenge of his journey. The store, which had once seemed a place of distrust and insecurity, now vibrated with a new spirit of collaboration. But on this day, everything was about to change. During a crucial meeting, Samuel was preparing to present a new strategy that could boost sales and solidify the transformation he so desired. He had worked hard, but he knew there were still skeptics among his colleagues, especially Marcus. As he spoke, the tension in the room was palpable. Samuel felt the anxiety rise in his chest, but continued to present his ideas with passion and clarity. This strategy is not just about sales, but about building an environment where everyone feels valued. Together, we can create something amazing. However, as soon as he finished, Marcus stood up again, his eyes full of skepticism. That's all very nice, Samuel, but what about the numbers? What are you going to do if sales don't go up? We'll just be throwing words to the wind. Marcus's words cut through the air like a knife, and the room fell silent. Samuel felt the heat rise in his face. He knew Marcus was an important voice, but frustration was beginning to take over him. I understand your concern, Marcus, Samuel replied, trying to stay calm. But it's not just about numbers. We are building an environment where everyone can grow. That takes time. He hesitated for a moment. The truth was that insecurity was visiting him again. What if he was wrong? What if the change didn't happen? Doubts began to settle in, but Samuel remembered the mural he had created. The messages of support and stories of overcoming from his colleagues flashed through his mind. He realized it was not just about him, but about everyone on the team. With a new focus, Samuel decided not to let himself be discouraged. He looked into the faces of each team member seeking support, and he found it. Jake's voice suddenly rose. I think what Samuel is trying to do is important. We have to give this a chance. If we don't try, we'll never know. Jake's statement brought a breath of hope to the room, and other employees began nodding in support. Samuel realized he was not alone in this fight. The connection he had cultivated was beginning to bear fruit. With the growing support, Samuel decided to change his approach. He paused, took a deep breath, and spoke sincerely. Marcus, you are right to be concerned about the results, and so am I. But what I have learned is that for us to succeed, we first need to build a solid foundation. We need trust and a space where everyone feels safe to contribute. I am willing to listen to your ideas and work together to make this work. The tension began to dissipate and the room filled with murmurs of agreement. Marcus, surprised by Samuel's new approach, hesitated. I just want what's best for the store. I don't want this to turn into a disaster, he admitted, the vulnerability in his voice surprising everyone. Samuel smiled, recognizing Marcus's internal struggle. I want that too. Let's work together. How about we set some goals that we can monitor and adjust along the way? That way we all have an active role in this process. The atmosphere in the room changed significantly. Colleagues began to share their ideas, and Samuel realized that collaboration was making the team stronger. Voices that were once critical were now turning into valuable contributions. The board, which was already a symbol of transformation, now reflected the unity and mutual support that were blossoming. By the end of the meeting, Samuel felt a weight lifted off his shoulders. He had overcome not only Marcus's resistance, but also his own insecurities. The true wealth he sought was not just material success, but the connection and respect he had cultivated with his team. He understood that the journey of leadership was filled with ups and downs, but what really mattered was the ability to listen, learn, and grow together. As they left the room, he saw Marcus approaching. I'm sorry if I was harsh, he said, with a sincere look. I think deep down I was just afraid of change. Samuel smiled, extending his hand. Let's face this together. We're all learning here. In that moment, Samuel realized that friendship and understanding were the true achievements of that journey. He had transformed, and so had the store. The connection he had cultivated with his team would become the solid foundation for future success. They were ready to face the challenges ahead, together, stronger than ever. After the meeting, Samuel Hightower felt a mix of relief and euphoria. He had faced Marcus's resistance, and at the same time managed to unite the team around a common vision. The feeling that the store was on a new trajectory filled his heart with hope. However, he knew this was just the beginning. In the following days, the atmosphere in the store changed visibly. Conversations were more lively, and people showed a renewed enthusiasm. Samuel noticed that the employees were more willing to share ideas and collaborate on projects. The board, now filled with messages of support, had become a symbol of the new team spirit. He admired every message left by his colleagues, which spoke about dreams, challenges, and achievements. As he walked through the store, Samuel noticed that Jake's smile had become more frequent. The young man was excelling in his new role, helping to implement some of the ideas discussed in the meeting. Samuel found him in a corner, organizing a new product display. Jake, you've been doing a great job. I loved how you reorganized this, Samuel praised, noticing the enthusiasm on the young man's face. Thank you, Samuel. I feel like I now have more space to be creative and bring new ideas, Jake replied, his voice full of energy. Samuel saw that this collaborative environment was allowing people to feel valued. That was exactly what he wanted. However, Samuel also knew that not everyone was completely comfortable with the changes. He remembered the conversation he had with Marcus and decided that he needed to continue working to ensure that everyone felt included. One morning, he invited Marcus for coffee. While they were having coffee in the small break area, Samuel felt it was a good time to discuss what was at stake. "Marcus, how are you feeling about all this now?" Samuel asked sincerely. Marcus hesitated, looking at the table for a moment before responding. "You know, I was worried. The change made me nervous. But seeing how things are developing, I feel like I may have underestimated the power of the team. I'm trying to adapt." Samuel nodded, understanding the challenge Marcus faced. "We are all learning, Marcus, and you are an essential part of this. Your experience is valuable to us. Let's continue to discuss our concerns openly so we can grow together." Samuel's words and willingness to listen helped to ease the tensions that still lingered. Marcus smiled shyly, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "Thank you, Samuel. I really appreciate that. Let's do our best." Over time, Samuel noticed that trust within the team was increasing. People were more willing to face challenges and share their fears openly. The store began to see an increase in sales, but more importantly, the real transformation was in the environment. Employees felt more connected and willing to work for each other. In one of the weekly meetings, Samuel decided to introduce a new dynamic. He asked each team member to share a challenge they faced and how they overcame it. The room filled with stories of resilience and mutual support. Samuel watched proudly as the team grew even closer, celebrating each other's victories. As time passed, Samuel also had the opportunity to reflect on his journey. He remembered the moments of doubt and insecurity he faced. Now, looking at the vibrant and united team, he realized that true success was not just about numbers. It was about the connection he had created with each of them. The transformation of the store became an example of how teamwork and empathy can lead to significant changes. Samuel felt he had found his purpose as a leader, not just guiding, but also learning from his team. He was ready to face any challenges that might still come, knowing that together they could achieve whatever it was. As he left the store on a sunny late afternoon, Samuel looked at the mural one more time. The vibrant art and inspiring words reflected the journey they had all taken together. He smiled, feeling grateful for every step they had taken. After all, true strength lay in unity. As the months passed, the store transformed into a true home for everyone who worked there. Samuel Hightower, now more than just a store manager, had become a respected and admired leader. He had learned that the true strength of a team goes beyond goals and results. It is in the human connection and empathy cultivated among colleagues. The store not only thrived in sales, but also in spirit and collaboration. Marcus, who had previously been reluctant, was now an advocate for new ideas and was constantly seeking ways to further improve the work environment. He and Jake formed an unusual friendship, combining their creative strengths in projects that delighted the customers. The mural, which had once started as a simple space for expressions, was now a vibrant testament to each person's journey, filled with stories of overcoming challenges and collective victories. Samuel reflected on his own journey. He had faced doubts and fears, but those feelings were now part of his past. The growth of his team directly reflected his personal growth. He had learned to listen, to value each person's voice, and this not only built a strong team but also transformed him into a wiser leader. He realized that success was not just about numbers on a spreadsheet, but about the positive impact he could have on the lives of those around him. However, Samuel also knew that the journey was far from perfect. There was always room for improvement and challenges to be overcome. He was aware that some team members still struggled with insecurities and fears. In an effort to continue this transformation, Samuel decided to organize a special event to celebrate the store's achievements and reinforce the importance of unity. He invited all employees and their families, creating an atmosphere of celebration and gratitude. On the day of the event, the store was filled with laughter and joy. Samuel gave an emotional speech where he talked about the importance of each person and how every team member had contributed to the collective success. He emphasized that although the journey had been challenging, resilience and friendship had prevailed. Samuel's words touched everyone's hearts, and many felt emotional recalling the ups and downs they had faced together. As a symbolic act, Samuel revealed that in addition to the celebrations, he had prepared a a gratitude mural, where each member could leave a message for their colleagues. This initiative was met with enthusiasm. People began to write, and the mural quickly filled with words of gratitude and recognition. As the night came to an end, Samuel felt a mix of relief and happiness. He had managed to unite the team in a way he never thought possible. The event not only celebrated achievements, but also solidified bonds of friendship and respect. He knew that the journey had no end, but that day represented a significant milestone. Now, Samuel was prepared to face any challenges the future might hold. He had learned the importance of vulnerability and the strength that comes from unity. True revenge for him was not about defeating obstacles, but about transforming fears into growth and distrust, into bonds of friendship. And so he looked at the mural, now a symbol of their efforts and collective achievements. A new journey was just beginning. What could he do from that moment on? He invited everyone to continue the journey of learning and growth, reminding them that each person had an important role in the store's story. Samuel concluded with an invitation: share your stories, your struggles, and your victories. Let's continue to inspire each other. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that we can together build an even brighter future. Together, we are stronger. The message resonated in everyone's hearts, and the team felt that every step they took together was a step towards a promising future.